Hello, everybody. How are you doing today? My name is Tony Rosano. This is another episode of the world famous, the University Love, the best podcast in 1, 2, 3 galaxies. But, ladies and gentlemen, you and I, we just call this show Online Marketing Moves, and we are coming to you live today. Ladies and gents, how are you doing today? Ladies and gentlemen, today we are going to talk about doing the business that you want to do, not reading the book, but actually doing the thing that you want to do. And sometimes it's better for you just to learn on the fly than it is to, we can all study books. We can all read 100 books, 1,000 books, but until you actually do the thing that you want to do, you will not get it in the first world experience. Okay. I'm gonna give you a rundown of what I've learned from owning a truck, from being a owner of a little trucking company. Okay, I was up the other day, and I don't want to go into, because it's gonna sound like nonsense to you, but basically what I'm going to tell you is, whenever you driving, whenever you buy a tractor trailer or whatever kind of truck, you drive through different states. Here in America, I'm gonna give you the example. Here in America, every state has different tax laws, and whenever you drive through a state, you must pay a certain tax. So, I'll tell you like this: if I drive through the state of New York, okay? New York, for every mile you drive, you have to pay 38 cents. Now, there's two ways you can go about it. You can either get fuel in the state and it'll offset the cost. It's supposed to offset the cost. Or every quarter they will charge you a certain amount of money for all the miles you've driven in the state. And there's two ways you can go about this. You can keep track of that stuff yourself, or you can do like I do. I have a little computer system that keeps track of it, or you can do both. Now, I always know which states I'm going into, and I know which states are the highest and which states are the lowest, and you want to get people, because people think, oh, if I get fuel, it's cheap. I'll give you another example. Fuel in Missouri, because I go see my parents sometimes. Fuel in Missouri, the tax in Missouri is very cheap. So I do not get fuel in Missouri. I get fuel in Illinois. Now, I'm explaining this to you because I know it sounds like minutia, but these are the little things that you must know when you own a truck. When you are a truck owner, you must know these things, because at the end of the day, it sounds good if you say, yeah, man, I got fuel. I got cheap fuel here and cheap fuel there. But every quarter, they're going to come back and they're going to tax you big time if you don't get fuel in certain states. Like whenever you go to California and you own a truck, just get fuel in California. Don't worry about them other states, because it's expensive. You go to Illinois, get fuel in Illinois because it's expensive. Pennsylvania, New York, you get fuel in these places. You don't get fuel in Missouri and Mississippi because it will offset the cost. And every quarter so far, I've done a decent job. First time I had to pay $4. Second time they owe me $60. So what I'm telling you is, it's the little things like that you must know when you run a business. But you will not you will not be able to apply these things until you actually do the thing that you want to do. I'll give you another example. I'll give you a better example. I started writing again, okay? Started writing again. And before, I gained a little steam, but it wasn't nothing to call home about, It wasn't nothing to call home about. And this time, I started writing, and I got to thinking, and I said, what are we going to do because everybody and their brother wants to be online. Okay, there's a crowded space. We talked about this before. It's not saturated, but it is crowded. Everybody thinks they're a content creator. Everybody thinks they're a writer now. Everybody thinks they're this, they're that, and the other. But in order for you to stand out, you must figure out, hey, what am I going to do to market my stories? What am I going to do to, what am I going to do to stand out amongst the crowded crowd? Now, the air at the top is rarefied air and it's thin and it's not many people up there. But you have to eventually move away from the crowd. So you have to learn how to market yourself. So you have to start really applying, you have to really start applying the marketing knowledge that you have. And, before I remember I would take my article, I would send it to my email list, I would go on Twitter, and I would do it that way. And this time I said, I'm thinking to myself, what can we do? Now, the first thing that you want to do when it comes to content, one of the first things that you want to do is talk about stuff that people want to talk about. If you're not talking about things that people want to talk about, then, you're writing, which is cool, but you're just writing to write. If you really want to make some headway, you have to write about what people want to discuss. And there are different ways of going about that. But the reason why I'm telling you all this is because whatever business you want to do, whatever business you want to be in, whatever thing, the business, whether if you want to own a pet store, whether you want to own a culinary school, eventually you have to get in there and you have to start doing it. And there will be some bumps, maybe, but the best thing is you can't substitute knowledge you learn from practical knowledge. I'll give you the greatest example. My wife has never read a business book. Okay, I love my wife, but she's never read a business book. She's never thought about owning a business. And then one day, her boss, she was working at a culinary school, and her boss was, transitioning. And she asked my wife, she said, hey, what do you think about owning this store? And my wife said, huh? And she said, what do you think about owning this store? And she said, you know how to run it. You've been running it. I mean, I haven't been here in months, and you've been running it just fine. And my wife said, well, let me think it over, and I'll tell you in a couple of days. And my wife, she came to me and she said, she wants me to own this business. She's going to sell the business, but she said she wants to sell it to me. And I said, that's cool. And my wife said, I never ran a business before. And I said, well, I don't know. At the time, I didn't know anything about trying to run a business myself, So we were just two blind people. It was just the blind leading the blind. And I told her, I said, well, if you already know most of it, you just have to learn the business stuff. And I said, the most important thing you must do is pay your taxes. I said, after that, everything else is sort of, you'll learn. And Mari said, maybe I'll take a business class. And I said, you can, but you might as well just go for it. And my wife, she bought the business and she ran the business, and she learned a lot in her 5 years of owning that business. She hit some bumps. She had some highs, a couple lows, but the practical, the way she learned was on the job. She learned at the job. Now I'm not saying, of course I love to read a book, me myself, so I get it. I like to just read point blank, period. But for some people that don't like to read books, for some people that don't like to, study a whole lot, on the job training sometimes is the best, the most, and the best way to go about it. Okay? So, do I recommend you read books? Of course. But I read books like I like to read biographies. I like to learn about people. I learned about Thomas Edison and how he created things and how he told the press about the things he created. Thomas Edison was about marketing himself, you know what I mean? Like, Thomas Edison wanted people to know that he was creating things. Thomas Edison was a marketer, okay? Um, that's the latest book, but he created things, but he knew how to market himself. He got a hold to the press. He said, "Hey, I'm Thomas Edison. You know, I'm doing this. Come down to the lab and check it out." And they would come down and check it out. You know, but the thing is, he read some, but a lot of times he just started applying himself. A lot of things he was just applying. It was practical learning. And it's the same with all of us. Yeah, you can learn a lot from a book, don't get me wrong, but sometimes you just need to flat out go ahead and do the thing that you want to do. Um, I give you a great example. I give you another great example, then we'll get out of here. I used to I used to train people in the truck. So we would spend too much time together. We would spend a month together. It would be me and them in a tractor trailer. You know, they would sleep at the top bunk, I would sleep at the bottom bunk. We was together. They would drive, I would sit over there, read, you know, doing all this. And the first week, of course, you know, most people, you know, it was, you had to really, you know, sort of sit there and wait and, you know, do this and babysit them, you know, hey, do this, hey, do that, you got to do this, you got to do that. But by the fourth week, the fifth week, you know, I would be in the truck, but I wouldn't have to be in the truck. I would be, you know, either sitting in the driver's seat, or I would be in the back on the phone or sleep or something, you know. And I remember one time this guy, he told me, he said, "Man, you can just go home. I can drive this truck myself. I don't need you." And I said, "Well, it's all fun and games when you got somebody in the truck and they can still, you know, watch over you and everything. But when you get out there on your own," I said, when you get out there on your own, I said, that's when you're gonna be, you know, at the time I used to use a lot of profanity. So I said, that's when you'll be, you know, bleepy bleep bricks, you know. I said, cause something will happen and you never will see it while you've been training with me. And then when you see it, you're gonna freak out, but it's all right. Just take a deep breath and you'll figure it out. And I say, it happens all the time. I said, we've done things for 30 days. I said, but eventually it's going to be something you run into that you never seen before. And the guy said, I'm prepared for everything. And of course, you know, he called me up, because I tell him, they could call me with like 2 months, whatever, you know. They can call if they have any questions, and call me up. And he said, you know, I forget what it was, but he said, this happened and that happened. Man, I never seen it before. And I said, I told you, man. You know, I said, it always happens. I said, it happened to me. It happens to you. It happens to everybody. You do something for somebody. You ride with somebody for 30 days. You ride with somebody for 4 to 6 weeks, and everything seems good. You're like, man, this is a great job. I can't wait. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And kaput. You know, it's what you learn on your own sometimes is a lot better than what you can learn in a book. And that's that. And I will give you the perfect example. I remember when I first started driving, I was riding with this guy, and this guy was like, man, you're doing so good, blah, 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 you know. And then my time was up. My first load ever. I got a load. I remember I was driving I was going to this warehouse. I had made a delivery, and I was picking up, and they gave me the directions, and this was before GPS. They gave me the directions. It was a little foggy outside. Never forget this. It was a little foggy. So I took the wrong street, and I wound up in a residential neighborhood. There's a bunch of houses, and at the time I said it looked like a big old. It was like a big old turnway, and I was like, okay, I could turn right here, And this lady came out, and she said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "What?" I said, "I'm turning." She said, "You can't turn around this residential neighborhood." And I said, "Well, where am I gonna go?" Okay, and she told me this, that, and the other. And she said, "I should call the cops." And I said, "Lady, shut up and just thanks for the help, but shut up." And I took off, and I had to laugh. Now that I think about it, I laugh because it's like it was foggy. I missed the sign. I could not see the sign to save my life. That never happened before I got off the guy's truck, and I didn't really know what to do. Now that looking back on it, it's a lot of things I could have done, but a lot of times things do not happen to you until you start doing them. Yeah, in a book you can learn a lot. Yeah, you can study as much as you want. But until you apply it yourself and something happens to you in the real world, sometimes it's better for you that way. Okay? I know this episode was all over the map. We talked about fuel tax, we talked about culinary schools, and a lot of trucking emphasis. But I went with that because I've learned quite a bit that I actually did not know in the 17 years that I've been a truck driver. I've learned a lot, and it's quite amazing. And so, ladies and gents, that is it. We will be back tomorrow with an all new episode of Online Marketing Moves. Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't already, go back through the archives. We have 600 some episodes you can listen to. Check it out. And we'll be back tomorrow with the all new episode of Online Marketing Moves. But until then, my name is Tony Zano. Thank you for listening. And as always, everybody, peace.